butcher shops of the past.
The 19th century saw a big shift for the butcher shops, with the population growing and many of those quickly populating the towns and cities. Urban butcher shops were an important part of people's daily life. Eating meat became popular across all sections of society during the Victorian era. Increased urbanization meant that people as a whole became more dependent on butchers and butcher shops. And the cost of meat was relatively far lower than it had been in previous generations. A lot of the cuts and roasting joints still used today began to appear, and there were products that could be sold for all budgets. Salted fat and bones were popular among the poorer members of society to add flavor and much-needed calories to soups and stews, as well as the cheapest cuts of meat available. While the wealthy often indulged in roasting joints, the larger the better. The lack of fridges meant that a trip to the butcher's shop was a regular occurrence for most, and combined with all of the above, butchers were busier than ever. According to Thomas Miller in 1852, first, you would have to step over the gutter before the door, which literally ran with blood, and be mindful of all those carcasses hanging on the outside of the shop. Most shops had also been in the same family for decades, if not centuries, earning their reputations. Businesses would shout about where they sourced their meat, and were proud to sell local produce, the animals coming from nearby farms. At Christmas time, huge, tantalizing displays were created to entice customers, some so magnificent that they were reported on in the local papers, and these reports would include where the meat had been sourced from and any prizes it might have attained. In a time of no refrigerators, salting and smoking meat was a good method of preservation. Yet, Victorians liked their meat a little aged, and sausages, for example, were hung in the windows for much longer than they are nowadays. Apparently, this made them taste better. By the end of the century, ice boxes began to be used. Inside the shop, you would see a butcher with his bare muscular arms, according to Thomas Miller's account. You might find yourself a little confused as this butcher conversed with his assistant, for butchers were famed for their backslang. The beginning of the 20th century saw huge improvements for the local butcher, with the industrial use of refrigeration and health and safety acts being implemented. The butcher continued to thrive, even during the war when meat was rationed.
If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel.